This frame right here brings the Aeon groove to UFS, and that's supposed to not be possible because of the UFS bolts getting in the way. And actually, scratch that, this is bigger and wider and longer. It's a bigger groove than the Aeons. And yeah, it still works on UFS. This is the Hexi Blitz V1 frame. There's a V2 right now, and it's designed to be either flat or rocketed. I accidentally set it up flat. I was skating the daily rolling wheels here, which are an exceptionally good wheels. It reminds me of the Eulogies. They really they last right down to the core. And also skating some of the Revolver 56 mil. So I had 56 and a 64. I thought these were 65, so I thought I'd be screwed. But yeah, it turns out that was the perfect gap to skate these flat. So I've skated these for 4 months now, which is so much longer than I'd expect to get out of a 3D printed frame. And yes, it's 3D printed and it's for the core marketplace. And yeah, today I'm going to be talking through my experience and a quick review of the Hexi Blitz frame wall. Disclaimer though, this is a pre-release and also version 1, so it's like the worst version of this frame once again. So yeah, the newer version's probably even better. So I sent these by Hexi Blitz a long time ago now, and they kind of just sat on my shelf because I couldn't find the right setup of wheels for it. And that's been the biggest put off for me for high-low frames. This is the first one I ever skated. And yeah, there's probably one downside about this frame is you do need a very specific wheel type, 2 different types of wheels, you know, and trying to find ones that don't look weird together and also have kind of matching profiles is definitely quite difficult. But somehow by complete chance I had the perfect setup for this just lying around, which was a sign for me to skate them. I had the option to get them in a different color. They come in white and black and purple. I decided to take a risk with purple, and somehow I put them on my skates, had the first session of them, and I fell in love with this color. And I think this is the beginning of the reason why I love the color purple right now. Literally this setup. And I don't know, it really grew on me, man. I really like the color, but color technology doesn't matter. Let's talk about how they actually skate. I should note though that over the 4 months I've been skating this, I was mostly skating park, so it's not the hardest test on them, but I did film a street section and did get out and skate some rough street stuff throughout it. On my first session, I planned to just do a 1 day, test them out and make a quick video on them. But the session I had was one of the best I had in a long time, and I instantly fell in love with the setup. A big test for frames for me is the Royale test. If I can land a Royale first try in a frame, then I know it's a frame for me, and that's exactly what happened to this one. There was no adjustment. My first attempt at a Royale was boot down with no wheel bite, which, you know, that's what you want out of a flat frame, and I was very impressed with that. Usually the trade-off you get though for having a setup that's really good and wide like this, that's great for Royales, it's almost like anti-rocker, right? As they feel very train tracky, and you scrape on like cracks and like transition and stuff at the skate park. Somehow that's not the case with these. I didn't feel train tracky at all, and I never scraped. I have some footage here of all the little obstacles, which are the test for whether a groove is too big for me, and I wasn't scraping on anything, especially out the box. The groove and wheel ratio just seems to be spot on, exactly what I like and exactly what I need out of a frame. I'm very impressed. A frame that didn't pass the Royale test for me is the Symmetrics. I am on the fence about these just right now. This is a complete tangent, but the Symmetric frames, I can't land boot down Royale. It feels like I have to wear them in to get that. I always just, it doesn't come naturally to land boot down in these, and that's what I'm skating now, and it's making me miss those for sure, because it was so easy to just instantly land boot down on those, and whether these, I feel like, I don't know if I just don't like them or whether I just need to break them in. We'll see. But anyway, so my home park, there's these like little benches that you need to sit on that are like really rough, and they even survived skating that first session, which I would expect to destroy a 3D printed frame. These held up great. They felt quite sticky on the corner of doing like H-block tricks when I went for the sole to alley-oop switch sole, where I really rely on that H-block foot on my right foot on the second alley-oop sole, right? And they slid fine, and it was good, and like every trick feels like that on those ledges. So yeah, I'm very impressed. Day one was so impressed that I decided this was going to be my main setup for the foreseeable future. After that, I went and skated the Vert. I've been skating the Vert with this young dude called Malachi, who's the fucking man. He's so good. You should definitely follow his dad on Instagram. He posts him and his brothers skating. Great dude. But the first thing I noticed skating there was these felt slower than my flat 60s. I was skating the core stock walls before, which was just a flat 60. It's actually meant to be flat 58, but I was skating flat 60s, and these did feel slower skating up the ramp. I felt like I was getting less out of my pushes and out of my pumps through the ramp, but after a few minutes of getting used to that, they felt totally fine. It was nice to have a groove I had full faith wouldn't stick and get wheel bite in, and they were actually quite good for skating the vert. The longer wheelbase made it a bit more sturdy, and it felt good. And the speed thing, I think it was so minimal that it didn't really matter. One thing I did notice though is it did seem like it was putting a lot of stress on these two middle wheels. These two middle wheels are 56 mil, which is so tiny, and I think that's where you kind of cap out for speed wise. So it doesn't feel like skating 56 mils flat, but it feels like you're skating on 56 mils though, if that makes sense. And yeah, every time I'd roll the ramp, these wheels would take a hiding, and it's really like putting stress on the bearings. And I'm pretty sure I've cored all 4 wheels that are in the center at this point. But the revolver wheels are so good in the fact that even when I've stretched the cores out and the bearings can like freely spin in them, they're still totally fine. Like, no problems with them at all. They don't creak, they don't crack, they don't clack. They're totally fine. It's really quite impressive actually. And yeah, but that's something I did notice about the setup. The thing I do like about the Harlow though is manuals, because when you're doing a manual, you are just on the bigger wheel, and that makes them real fun. They're like super smooth. Like if I did a toe roll or heel roll on a 56 mil wheel, it would feel horrible and it'd be so hard to balance and it'd be sticking and it'd be slow, but these feel great for doing the toe rolls and heel rolls. I then went on to skate at a comp, which was very happy with how I skated, landed some switch ups I've never done before with the extra added like faith in my H block. It really helped me out. And then I went on to film the promo for this shirt I'm wearing right now, the Mizu shirt that you should cop if it's still available right now, or whatever's still on lace. Please buy it to support me at this point. Link in the description, and maybe enter the competition too. Do your best Mizu. Put it in the hashtag lace Mizu. I want to see it anyway. I couldn't believe how fun this was to skate and how much I liked it. It was almost like this frame is too good to be true, man. I liked it more than the Aeons, and the fact that it's UFS. I didn't have the slow sole play of the Aeons. I didn't have the Aeon boot. I had a them 909 boot, but with a bigger than Aeon, but an Aeon feeling groove. And the Aeon groove for flat is unbelievable, man. It's like, it really is the best of like anti-rocker and flat fused together, like the perfect ratio. During filming the promo for the laced Mizu, I was out skating some rough spots in the streets, and this did take its toll on these frames. I started to chip away at some of the bolt holes and stuff, but nothing to break them. They didn't snap, they're completely fine, nothing chunked off in the groove, just little like superficial things that didn't really make a difference. But it did wear them down a lot to the point where they started to feel quite sticky and slow. I just gotten down to a point where it pretty much was flat. There was like the little like raised part that makes less friction has been worn out too much. So at that stage I decided to stop skating them. But overall, this is the best experience I've had with a 3D printed frame by far. It's kind of unreal how long these lasted and what I put these through. And yeah, the only downsides I could find with them were just the downsides of it being a 3D printed frame, and that being that they're not quite as strong and they don't last quite as long as a normal frame. And that also the big downside of like you have to find very specific wheels to fit. But once you have this set up, they are exceptionally good for what they are. Overall, I'm extremely impressed with this frame design. I think the only thing that could make it better is if it was its own standalone frame, or if it was injected mold versus 3D printed. That would make it literally the perfect frame, I think. And maybe if it came with this setup of wheels too, so you didn't have to worry about that. If you already have the core frames, the 50/50 core frames or the prime frames, I would highly recommend copying this, the new version of this from the core marketplace, because it's definitely worth a try. And the best thing about having 3D printed frame walls is you go through them pretty quick, so you get to try them all out. This one is definitely worth a try. I'm very impressed. Like, it is very well engineered and well designed. Everything seems purposeful and perfectly executed. Very impressed. But yeah, that's my thoughts on those. Huge thanks to Hexa Blitz for letting me try them out. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll try to answer them. Put them in the comments. Huge thanks to my patrons for making this possible. Cop the laced merch if it's out. Go check it out. That'll mean a lot to me. And you should watch my first impressions of them. It should be here. You'll see how much fun I had on that first session. It was so much fun, dude. Have a good day, guys.